Hi kids, welcome back to the channel. So today's video is about Sharon Mundia and I want you guys to watch this clip. This past week I was watching an interview she did for Dada Sphere and I want you guys to watch this clip. So let me roll it.
I felt uncomfortable sitting here and talking about my work and social media at a time where I feel so confused and vulnerable about this space, because I think I've done a decent job of curating this like polished, sparkly version that's like, space out the pictures and this is the color grade and this is what, but there's so many things that I want to talk about on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And I never know how, and I don't know, oh God, I don't want to get emotional. But I don't know if I have permission to be that or if I will be received the same way. If I do.
If you're what? If you're not as sparkly and as happy, because that's the brand.
If I start to show, for instance, that I'm not even sure what I want or where I'm going. I sort of do, but at the same time, I'm not always certain, and
I don't think we ever are, though.
That's exactly what my therapist said.
Yeah, I don't think because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or in a year or whatever. So I don't think anybody's ever certain of I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you experiment and you forgive yourself.
Oh, and that's very difficult for me. But I am working on it, and it's an understanding that I am worthy of certain things and of being in certain rooms. And I started to wonder, do I have a right to be in these rooms if they know that I don't know what I'm like. I've sort of had to figure it out along the way. And so if I come into this room and I say, this is who I really am, not this version that I've curated, do you still want me in the room if you see me?
I think for the first time I'm actually seeing Sharon Mundia as a human being, and in the video she talks about she got all vulnerable with all of us and talked about her struggles with identity and purpose. And for me it really hit home, because some of the things she's going through I have been through and so many other people go through. I really related to what she was talking about when she said like online, on social media, and also in real life, there's this version of yourself that you actually show people, and there's this version of yourself that you're comfortable with people actually seeing. And when that's not the case anymore, I think it's very scary to show people who you really are, you and your multifaceted sides. And I think I've been in Kenya almost 2 months now, and every time I go out, I usually meet a few people. I usually meet a lot of people who they're my subscribers and they've been following me for a while. And it's very exciting to see you guys and say hi and actually be recognized. There's this one time I think I was walking around town and I met one of you subscribers, and on that day, I don't know, I was just being moody, or I was just tired, or maybe I was just hungry. And I guess so I met a subscriber and we introduced ourselves to each other. We talk a little bit, and then she wants to take a selfie, and I guess she wanted to take a video of me saying something. So she pulls out her phone and then she's like, "Hey guys, I'm with Edgar." Then I'm like, "What's up?" And then she looked at me like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, where's this Edgar that we see on video, and where's this Edgar that is so pumped, full of energy?" And like, I didn't know what to tell her, because like you could literally see the disappointment in her eyes. And I think, is it true what people say? It's one of the biggest mistakes to meet your idol. And I guess I was just being moody that day. I was hungry. I was just hungry or something. So even us YouTubers, or people who are online or celebrities, they are not always what you see on the screen. Like, it's not that they're being fake, that is a part of them, but they also have so many other sides to them. And I think as an audience or as people, we should allow people to actually really be themselves and not box them into one thing. Like, if let's say people who blow up on social media because of one thing they did. Let's say this guy, this simple boy who blew up because of Mihadarati. Like, do you expect him to constantly, always, every time you meet him, he says his one line or he sings his one verse? Do you expect that exact thing from him? All that, like, people are not machines. People are really not machines. So Sharon Mundia talked about how she's curated this version of herself on her Instagram, and she has a fear that the minute she shows people not that they won't be so accepting or not so willing to listen to her. Because I think in this day and age in social media, I think people are boxing themselves into corners of certain impressions they want people to see. Like, if you look at Sharon Mundia's Instagram page, it's all smiles and it's all fancy places and it's all these pretty pictures, it's all this lavish exotic travels, and I guess people just expect that and that from her. I think if she started talking about something different, people would not listen the same way. And from the interview, as I was watching it, I think, in my opinion, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not just my opinions. I think she's going through something I think people call imposter syndrome, where imposter syndrome, also known as fraud syndrome, is a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. I guess it happens to a lot of people that you feel that your successes are not really successes, and that maybe you got lucky, or maybe other people are as talented as you, and so you don't understand why you are ahead. And I guess you feel like you're at a position where it can easily be taken away and it can easily disappear tomorrow. And I guess you just get into this anxiety and fear that it will all end, that it will all just end when you don't expect it, when you have had no plan for it. And it's a hard thing to go through. I looked up some resources online, and if you are a person who is highly talented, highly motivated, and you're going through such feelings, the best way is to talk about it. That's what I read. Talk about it to someone. Go through the feelings, realize what it is that you're going through, and it's very comforting to know that there's actually a word for this thing that you're feeling. And a lot of people actually go through the same thing. A lot of people walk around through life not knowing actually what they're doing, and we're all just trying, we're all just experimenting, we're all just taking it a day at a time. I've talked to people who are in their 30s, I've talked to people in their 40s, in their 50s. No one knows what they're doing. No one knows what they're doing. People just do what feels right, and if it's working and it's been working, they just keep doing that and keep doing that, and it's just taking it a day at a time, one step at a time. Also, during this interview, Sharon talked about the time when her engagement proposal blew up, and here's the clip.
And then I got engaged, and I thought, oh, well, it's really serious now. I can't really, I mean, surely I felt like now I had permission to talk about some aspects of my life. And so I put up a blog post talking about my engagement story, which was really amazing. But I had no idea the kind of effect and how wide it would go, it would spread. I just assumed that it would be just me and the few people who read my blog, just the girls.
Oh, like the people who read the blog.
Yeah, I just thought that it would be like, oh my gosh, girls, guess what happened? This is what happened this weekend. And so it became something bigger than even the story.
Because it was covered on Capital News, it was covered all over the place.
Yeah, but also that was the moment I started to be like, oh God, what have I done? And I remember that evening, or it was later that day, I remember trying to find, because I was working at Capital FM, I remember trying to find a corner in the office because I just wanted to cry. And I remember going into like the IT room, and the IT guy going like, oh God, what are you doing? What's happening?
Men get so nervous when women cry. Like,
and also it was really awkward. Like he's great, but it was also like, what are you doing? Like, what's happening? And then also so that's when I started to panic, because I felt like I no longer had any kind of control over what, my life or what I was sharing. Mm-hmm. Not that I really had control. So I can't exactly say you can't come and look at my blog, but you can. But then at that point it just
But there's a difference between people talking about your trousers or your hair
Yeah.
And now people talk about your relationship, because when
Right.
you post it, now people feel like you're inviting commentary and conversation.
Yeah. And even though, like, most of the stuff that was being said was really lovely, it was congratulations. It was also really funny, but at some point also it became really dark. It's like people started to try and just prolong the story. So they would come up with like crazy things of who I was sleeping with. And I started to feel like it wasn't me anymore. I was just a story. And how many hits can we get by like
So
talking
those
about
fake
whatever?
internet things where it's just a headline, there's no story. Sharon Mundia
yeah.
cheats on fiance,
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I mean, it was just it was just about trying to, I guess, get hits. And
So when I watched this clip, I really felt like I could understand her. And to be honest, guys, at this point, I feel like I was a big part of that pain she feels of how the media treated her and how other people treated her. And for that, I think I'd like to say, Sharon, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being part of the problem. I'm sorry for saying what I said. I remember I made a few months back talking about her relationship and how Kenyans felt they didn't get any closure.
Made it very clear the things I want to talk about, we're happy to get into, and then other things are a no-go zone. My relationships, right? That's another thing. You'll never get to hear me say a peep ever again about that. At least that's how I feel at this point in time. When it comes to things that matter so deeply to me, I want to keep them close to myself.
She extended this way of thinking towards like her entire life. Like she said, she'll not talk about dating anymore. And to me, I don't think that's fair, because This Is Us came to public fame when she did a blog about her engagement with this guy, I've forgotten his name, and they broke up, but she's never actually talked about it. So she left Kenyans in this like confused states, like you sold to us, you bragged about the engagement, you showed us pictures, you made us fall in love with you, and then something happens and then you just keep quiet. Like there's no closure. Like I feel like if you're in the public space and you decide to talk about your relationship, then talk about it to its conclusion. Don't just talk about the good parts and then ignore the bad parts. Then if something happens, all of a sudden you're not sharing anymore. Who between this and this, like, stop being fake, huh? If you're going to be in public with your relationship, be in it the whole way. Don't just take certain parts you want and then leave other parts you don't want, because let's be real. So Natalie, don't be This Is Us. I understand it was not my place, and I don't understand why I felt so entitled to knowing your business, just like every other Kenyan felt entitled to knowing your business. And I think for that I'm sorry. In the video, she talks about how it actually felt being in the center of all of it, and this feeling that you've just lost all control over your own life, over your own story, over when people can just make up whatever they feel about you. And I guess people start treating you not as a human being anymore, but as an object, as a story, as a title, as just a name to put along with their story for clicks and views. And I think this is the worst part of the internet nowadays, as people don't treat each other as human beings anymore, and I'm guilty of that, and I'm sorry. And I think for how she talked about this in her interview, and looking at this and reflecting on it, it actually makes me feel like I don't want to be part of such stories anymore. Like nowadays, I think I'm very intentional about the stories I want to create for BNN, because I don't want this to be just regurgitated nonsense. I really want to dive into stories and dive deeper and deeper into why these stories are the way they are, how they make other people feel, and actually look at all sides of a particular story. So I just don't want to chase headlines and just post anything, really. So I guess this video is just an apology and actually trying to make other people see celebrities or people in social media. They are real people too. They do deserve the same courtesy as everyone else, and it's much more difficult for them to handle things. And I would hate if Sharon Mundia continued feeling the way she feels now and just never creates anymore, or hides her creativity and hides her true self from us, because we judge too harshly. We don't give her benefit of the doubt. We don't believe her story when she comes off, and we box her into this narrative or this persona that we feel we want, and we've decided that this is what we want from you, so we will not pay attention unless you're exactly this. So anyway, guys, that's all from me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.